Good afternoon, everybody. I hope this video finds you in best of health and spirits. Okay, in the pink of health. And this video, the title of this video is going to be Indian education system and the language conundrum. Okay, what exactly is a language conundrum? A conundrum is an English word. In case you're not aware, it means a very complex or intractable puzzle to which solutions cannot easily be found. Okay, there is ongoing dilemma and a quandary among many people here today in India whether to educate children in their mother tongue, whether to educate children in English. English, of course, seems to be a no-brainer, prima facie on the face of it. On the other hand, it is fraught with some negative consequences for the economy, but it does have many positive benefits as well. And one more new kid on the block is Hindi. Okay, Hindi is a native language of people in North India. Of course, I like all languages equally, respect all languages equally. But to many people in South India, it's alien and it is seldom taught as a primary language. Okay, it could have been an option, but it did not become an option because English continues to be as well entrenched and it's spreading rapidly also. And if you see the language scenario in India, India has home to many languages. Some of them are thousands of years old, including 22 major languages such as Indo-Aryan language. These include Assamese, Bengali, Hindi, Kashmiri, Marathi, Nepali, which is outside India mostly. Dravidian languages, that is such as Kannada, Malayalam, Tamil, and Telugu. Tibeto-Burman languages such as Manipuri, Meitei, and Bodo. Munda languages such as Santali. According to the Census of India, 2021 census of India, India has large number of minor languages, probably around 500 in number. Some of them are endangered, and some of them are critically endangered. We are losing languages rapidly all over the world, and worldwide there are over 7,000 languages. By the end of the century, only 3,000 languages may remain. Many of them are even dialects of a major language. Some don't have an independent script in their own right and use the same Devanagari script that is used to write Hindi. And most states are also, India has two official languages. Hindi is the official language, English is the associate official language. There is no national language as such. States are also encouraged, they have been encouraged to choose their own language through legislation. Most states therefore use the local language. Since 1956 we have had reorganization of states on the basis of language. Nehru initially was loath to the idea, was opposed tooth and nail, vehemently, vociferously to the idea. But later it worked out to be a blessing in disguise. It turned out to be a boom because it allowed each diversity to be, um, what do you say, fostered and nurtured, and a greater harmony among diverse cultures also to be fostered, inculcated, and nurtured. Some people thought state should be created arbitrarily and be bereft or devoid of linguistic boundaries. Some people also thought that there should be over centralization. This is an anathema to the unity. Decentralization and linguistics actually have proved to be a very good thing. Let us all bear this in mind at all times. Okay. Hindi also has several dialects such as Bhojpuri, Awadhi, Brij Bhasha, etc. Many dialects of Hindi have been Pidginized and spoken outside India. Example, we have Hindi spoken in Fiji. India's multilingualism is not a pain, it's actually something to be proud of. It is a boon because it has kept India united. And out of all the languages, Sanskrit and Tamil have been declared classical language, given the fact that they were 2000 years old clearly. And more recently, Telugu and Odia also have been added to the list. Okay, if you look at the history of languages in India, the Indus Valley civilization probably was multilingual, intensely multilingual. Many language groups were probably spoken there, this is Proto-Purushasky. And classifying languages into language groups may also be fuzzy and fraught with uncertainties, and it may be an exercise in futility even. The Indian linguistic scenario is probably much more complex and nuanced and intricate than Western anthologies have been ready to acknowledge or accept. Okay, this is a problem because Western journalists have never been able to fathom or grasp or comprehend the cultural diversity in India. This has been a major Achilles heel or a weakness on the part of Western Indologists. Harappans probably spoke many languages that included several languages that much later came to be known of practice. This is probably the most reasonable scenario which I have proposed. You are welcome to challenge my hypothesis, but do so on the basis of proper evidence. The term Prakrit was not properly used in the Indus Valley civilization. One cannot project the past, present into the past. Okay, these languages of the IBC probably interacted with ancestors of Vedic Sanskrit to form two distinct groups of languages, namely Vedic Sanskrit and the Prakrits of the Gangetic Plains later on. after the migrations to the Ganga Yamuna dove took place in 1900 BC. Vedic Sanskrit was definitely an Indian language. There's no two ways about it. There's no question about it. Right? It's as indigenous as any other language in India. It's just mother book and apple pie. It's very obvious. Don't have to say it again and again. However, some remote ancestor of Vedic Sanskrit probably originated in Central Asia. Even Contradals has accepted it later on. Okay, see, theories is out of India, the theories will fall flat because linguists all over the world have failed to accept them. The Kurgan hypothesis is the most reasonable hypothesis for the origin of Indian languages. And Sanskrit, Vedic Sanskrit, later evolved into classical Sanskrit, which was canonized by Pandit with grammar and all that. But Vedic Sanskrit itself may have been a lingua franca of the elite in post-Harappan India, may also have been associated with liturgical and sacerdotal traditions. Literacy, as per my model, alphabetic scripts were imported into from West Asia into India to the Gangetic Plains after 1600 BC, when there were contacts in the immediate post-Harappan period between West Asia and the Gangetic Plains. Okay, there was also some limited literacy available in the Gangetic Plains. Literacy spread to South India after 500 BC, and there have been sometime before they attested the Brahmi inscriptions of uh, North India, not 200 to 300 BC. Of course, obviously, inscriptions would have existed in North India prior to that. They just haven't been discovered. They have been lost with the passage of time. They have not withstood the uh, tra- tra- trials and trials of time, okay, tribulations of time. And the South Indian languages were also heavily influenced by Prakrit and Sanskrit separately according to their model. And we had Tamil Brahmi inscriptions from 500 BC. We had in 200, 300 BC, we had Bhattiprolu Brahmi in Guntur district. They're quite similar to North Indian Brahmi also. And after Buddha, after 500 BC, there was a spread of Buddhism and Vedic traditions parallel in South India according to the model. Even Tamil was influenced by Prakrit and Sanskrit. Tamil Brahmi also was derived from North Indian Brahmi. So all Indian cultures closely interrelated with each other. No culture can attempt to survive to live if it claims to be exclusive, or it claims that it owes nothing to other cultures because it's prima facie absurd. Okay, it doesn't mean therefore just Tamil is one of the oldest living language in India. That's because it hasn't changed considerably given its isolated geographical location. The Sangam age is around 2,300 years old. However, at the same time, 2,500, 2,600 years old, Prakrits were used in North India as well as Pali, which is a language of Buddhism associated with Buddhism. These cross interacted with Sanskrit and the earlier Prakrits of the Indus Valley civilization as per my model. Okay. I have also written about the linguistic scenario in India and the post-Buddhist area and the Mughal area and in modern India also. Read my papers. It's not possible to repeat them in a parrot-like fashion continuously in every single video. And if you see the status of English worldwide, English is widely used worldwide, all over the world. English has even become mandatory in the Middle East, in most countries in the Middle East. Even Saudi Arabia has made it mandatory. It is mandatory in Japan since fifth grade, China in third grade, and many other parts of the world. And many countries are slowly gravitating towards English. Our education is mostly in the middle term. In China, Japan, they don't allow education to be primarily based in English. It's also something that needs to go in mind. But India is multilingual intensely. I have written about the differences between India and China and identified 13 points of uh, conflict and of differentiation between China and India in this regard. India is intensely multilingual in a way China is not. Okay, and if you see the alternatives, Arabic is a local language. It doesn't have much currency outside the Middle East and Northern Africa. China again is used only in Chinese is used only in East Asia. Spanish is used in South America and small part of Europe. French is considered to be declined worldwide, including Quebec. And in Francophonie Africa also French may be gradually declined. People are declining. People may not be able to, it's imperceptible because of the slow pace at which it is happening. Okay, some South African countries like Rwanda and Burkina Faso are also promoting in a big English in a big way, and Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and other countries are practically not so enamored with French at this point in time, given its relative lack of importance. they are slowly gravitating towards English. Again, this is happening at a very slow rate. Okay, many other African countries may also bite the bait, albeit slowly. Okay, if you see the history of the English language in India, Thomas Babington Macaulay is fully credited with the official introduction of Indian education in the 1830s. However, the order was issued by Lord William Bentinck, the Governor General of India, on 7th March 1835. English gradually picked up in India in the 19th century onwards, end of 19th century onwards. It was in demand among aspiring clerks and those who wanted to serve first in the British East India Company and later during the British Raj. It was also used in science and higher education, wherever there was science and higher education in India at that time, to somewhat limited. However, there was some English education in India before 1835. English is just a language. For example, before Hindi spread, English kept India united, and Indians also used English to fight against the British overlords or colonial masters. Okay, so if you analyze the features of the English language in India, it has some pros and cons. First thing is, it does not. It's a neutral language in India. It does not discriminate on the basis of ethnicity. It has international demand. It's a choice of language of business. On the other hand, it has some drawbacks also. It is too elitist. Okay, it's unfair to people in rural regions. It has a colonial baggage and colonial history. People only use it therefore where it is required. They may not want to use it all the time in all places. And if you see the history of the language policy in India, naturally, early language policy did not want to uh, is- persist or continue with the English in India after freedom was attained eventually. Of course, this was a no-brainer again because it was atrocious and preposterous, scandalous choice, and that's the way people at least perceived it. However, their projections have not materialized effectively. They have come to naught because English continues to be as strong as ever in India. In 1906, Mahatma Gandhi wrote in his book In Swaraj or Home Rule, a universal language for India should be Hindi with option of writing it in Persian and Nagari characters. Okay, this was associated for. I mean, this was also associated with Hindu Mohammedan or Hindu Muslim unity, which Mahatma Gandhi was obsessed with. He made it one of the pillars and prerequisites of eventual independence, without, of course, partition. 1906, nobody had contemplated partition yet. Okay, gradually Mahatma Gandhi's ideas speculated and permeated throughout the Congress Party and other parties, and this is in spite of the fact that there were many different movements in different directions. Some people wanted different states. For example, Poti Sriramlu fought and achieved a state for Andhra in 1956 after independence. But from the roots of the Andhra Pradesh Telugu speaking state, line 1917 itself. Okay, Mahatma Gandhi also naturally was preoccupied and obsessed with Hindu Muslim University. For example, unity. For example, he supported the Khilafat movement in 1920, contentious and controversial. His comments during the Mopla rebellion are not that much in good taste. Okay, they do not, they smack of being partisan, and they're not exactly neutral. Again, in 1926, Shrami Shraddhananda was killed by Abdul Rashid. Okay, and Gandhi's statements in this regard also were not that neutral. And after in there was also a movement towards Hindustani. Hindustani is a mixture of Kadiboli Hindi, standard dialect, or Sanskritized Hindi and Urdu. Okay. After the independence of partition, of course, case for Hindustani was effectively killed, and there were many zealots in North Hindi zealots in the North, like Purushottam Das Standard, R.V. Durkar, Ram Manohar Lohiya. I would call them zealots, not fanatics, because they are just over enthusiastic to promote a cause. However, in these elites failed to comprehend India's linguistic diversity. At the time, we had no internet, we had no television, only radio, and motorization also was in its initial phases in India. There was not much of contact between different parts of India. People did not talk to each other and understand each other's cultures fully. Therefore, consequently, after independence, Article 343, within parenthesis 1 of the Constitution, stated that Hindi in Devanagari script would be the main language of the Union. Okay, finally, Hindi came to the language, but however, it has only been a mixed bag, it has not been that successful. Okay, I don't have anything against any language, they love all languages equally, Hindi, Gujarati, Marathi, Tamil, Telugu, English, Chinese, whatever, French, etc. But Hindi is also divisive. Okay, Hindi may make sense in parts of North India where there are many minor languages. However, other parts of India have very diverse linguistic traditions. Hindi was spread as a spoken language lingo recently. This is actually English, portmanteau of English and Hindi. There is very little written usage of Hindi outside Hindi speaking space. Okay, it allows to people, group of people to think that they are superior. Brute force majoritarianism is promoted. Some states have two languages, some have three. Those Hindi speaking states have Hindi as a native language. People from non Hindi speaking states have Hindi as a foreign language. Double discrimination against non Hindi speakers. Okay, so within a few years, people, months, people will take away using unfair and unethical methods. People from small part of country will take away all the jobs. Okay, and generally, the fact that people did not understand Hindi but did not understand the importance of English also very obvious. For example, I met a boy from Hindi-speaking state in the 80s, around 40 years ago. He was very interested in learning French. He knew Hindi and Sanskrit. He wanted to learn French, Russian, German, and Japanese, but he did not want to learn English, which is universal throughout India, widely used throughout India. And at the same time, he never showed any interest in learning other Indian languages also. So at the same time, people in Tamil Nadu were loath towards Hindi. Now it's changing there. That's many people are learning Hindi. Okay, majoritarianism can be dangerous. For example, case of former USSR which discriminated against non-Russian languages, it had met a disastrous end. Okay, Pakistan also tried to impose Urdu on East Pakistan on Bengali people. Okay, so there is no other option to English in my view because Sanskrit has practically no business or commercial value either within India or outside India. Prakrits cannot be used. Some I have examined the idea of creating Prakrit based lingo. While it may gain some currency slowly, it may not replace English. As artificial languages such as Esperanto have failed. For example, Proto Esperanto was invented by L.L. Zamenhof in 1887 and evolved into a full-fledged language known as Esperanto. Has a few tens of thousands of speakers who use it on a regular basis. Language also forms a major role in identity formation. Okay, the study of the relationship between language and culture is studied under anthropological linguistics or linguistic anthropology. I have written about this in depth. Please read all my earlier papers. I cannot repeat it again in such a short video. And this field of study was set in motion by anthropologists Franz Boas and other anthropologists such as R.G. Latham. Language is also indispensable and it is only means of communication. It's the only way of venting out, voicing one's inner beliefs, proclivities, fears, okay, etc. And this fear of a possible loss of mode of communication can raise emotions to a feverish pitch. Okay, I would beseech you and implore you to read my two papers on extended identity and identity. Also, I have also written 4 or 5 papers on origin of language, okay, as well as language dynamics. Okay, I have written on the origin and spread of languages, propositioning 21st century accents on evolution and dynamic uh, spread of languages, concomitant views on language dynamics. I've written another paper called the Comprehensive Compendium of Factors Impacting Language Dynamics, Observation of Language Spread in Multilingual Societies, Empowering Linguistic Have-Nots, etc., Developing Cogent Languages for the Lexical Development of Non-Dominant Languages. Read all these in depth. For example, Malaysia has had a very pragmatic strategy. They have borrowed English directly from borrowed words into Bahasa Malaysia directly from English. It seems to have worked very well, admirably and remarkably. On the other hand, b- France tried to create and coin new words artificially and it bit the dust because nobody uses English words. For mouse and keyboard, everyone uses English words in France. Okay, English words are even used in Japanese also. I've written about this. And again, to understand all these people's inner urges, tendencies, etc., linguistic ethnography can be used. Linguistic ethnography is a methodology and a theoretical framework that draws on the connections between language at a local level and a broader social, culture, and political forces. Foundation Bernal work on this was done by Frederick Erikson, John Gumpertz, and Delheims. Allied work was done by Jan Blomaert, Angela Kreis, Marilyn Martin Jones, Ben Rapton, and Cecilia Roberts. You cannot also try to forcibly you can't try to take away people's linguistic rights from them. You have a union declaration of human rights which does talk about human linguistic rights in passing, which is briefly in passing. I have also proposed that a UN declaration of linguistic rights be brought about. If you want to see future linguistic scenarios, understand my paper on language dynamics. It is not necessary that English should rule the roost forever. Okay, Brexit, they said will sound the death knell of English language, the English language in Europe. Does not come to pass. Exactly the opposite has happened. Artificial intelligence also, some quarters they say it will destroy the prospects of English. It may not happen because I always recommend a role-based and context-based analysis. However, after 2050, I personally believe that English will level off and gradually decline. But I am personally not interested in what will happen after 10,000 years or 20,000 years. Okay, and there are problems with English medium schools. English medium schools are too elitist, don't train teachers. Students may not be able to understand English, causes a major barrier and a bottleneck among poor children and children in rural areas. It may lead to a situation where children are not comfortable with any one language. I have also written extensively on the theory of linguistic expectation, theory of non-linguistic expectation. Read my papers on anthropological economics. I have written about linguistic performance, non-linguistic performance, etc. In some, it's impossible to do away with English education completely. It will cause an uproar and thousands of people will go to court. So, solution is English must be given importance even in vernacular schools. Only functional, technical in English must be taught. Do away with Shakespeare, Williams, Wordsworth, etc. And learn it optionally if you want. Transferable skills approach is also important. In earlier years, education in mother tongue gradually move over to English. That is one approach. Some subjects in English, some subjects in mother tongue. Malaysia has tried it. Lexical development of Indian languages and must not look down upon Indian languages, must not look down upon people who do not know English. This is a cultural mindset. Speaking of Indian languages in Indian schools should be allowed. Okay, so teaching of Indian languages in English medium schools must be encouraged. Expand basket of choices besides Hindi. And in non-English schools, infrastructure must be improved. English must be taught easy, practical English only. Lexical development of Indian language should be taken up. Bilingual textbooks if possible. Booster refresher courses in English must be taught. By the time students reach class 10, they must have a fair grasp of the English language. Non-English students also must be made, non-English schools also must be made more attractive. Funds must be pumped into government schools. This will breach the English non-English divide. Both streams must exist. You cannot, there's a practical. There is no other approach or alternative. No, people from vernacular schools need not look up to people from English medium schools obsequiously. This is not required. Pedagogy itself must be brought up to date. I've written theories of pedagogical content I have proposed. Please read my papers on pedagogy. AI based teaching can also be taught. Mega Labs Education has come up with a teacher called Iris. It is used in Kerala and Assam. I've written about all the features. It has wheels, voice assistant, Android app interface, language understanding ability, computer-based teaching, like computer-based training, computer-assisted language learning, etc. can also be taught. Computer-based tests, etc. School infrastructure must be improved all over the country. Power outages must be made a thing of the past. Okay, you have solar-based energy also at our disposal. It's becoming cheaper, cheaper, more lucrative and attractive, and it will become cheaper than traditional forms of power sources soon. Okay, solar and renewable energy can also be. So these are the proposals. But as this is only a summary and a very brief summary of my work earlier, and it's just to introduce you to the nature and breadth and diversity of my work. Please do go through my papers when you get the time. I have mentioned the names of the papers which you must read here. Okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.